Hello, welcome to Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience and Other Phenomena. I'm your host, Tamara Calder Richardson, a six-time near-death experiencer and evidential psychic medium and afterlife speaker. Today, we have a very special guest and a special event, and I want to introduce you to our guests, but first, I want to go over their bio a little bit. Tonight, we're speaking to a composer and artist, David Ditchfield. He's from Cambridge in the UK. He had a near-death experience back in 2006 that radically changed his life after having a brush with death in a tragic train accident. And later he had a near-death experience in the emergency room. After coming back from experiencing another realm on the other side, he soon discovered an after effect that he had acquired an amazing gift, the ability to create beautiful art and music. As he woke up in the hospital, David started sketching out his experience. He was given the confidence and message to paint his otherworldly experience. He found that he could paint dramatic paintings of what he had seen in the afterlife, far beyond his natural ability he had before. Then he discovered he could also compose celestial type music, having never received any musical training, not knowing how to read a note or write music. Yet, he now knew how to compose divinely inspired classical music compositions, such as in his piece that we are going to present tonight. I'm very proud to introduce our esteemed guest. I welcome you to an evening of near-death inspired music and art with David Ditchfield. Welcome, David.
Hello, what a lovely intro. Thank you so much for that. That's great.
Well, I tell you what, I'm honored. I have no claims to the level of the ability and the beauty that's in your work, but this is another way. This is an after effect. You know, I received after effects mediumship. Different people have come back, maybe knowing numbers, and this is, I think, should be highlighted. This beautiful after effect that you received. And the fact that you are presenting your near-death experience through this art is just outstanding. I'm just blown away by it. So maybe tell us how you were kind of before. I think you covered some of this, and those that have not seen David's near-death experience, the full story is in the episode before this, and you can see that, so we don't have to repeat it. But maybe take it from when you started getting these indications of these images that you needed to sketch, and how this unfolded, that you were like, wow, that you discovered this new ability.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it happened pretty much as you say. I had the near-death experience itself when I was in the ER department, and then they took me through into theatre, and I was under for about 8 hours, I think, while they operated on me. And as I came through, they'd given me my own sort of room in the hospital, which was great because I got lots of peace in there, and I'd got a lot to contemplate as I was coming back from the anaesthetic. First of all, dealing with the accident, because it was a horrific accident. But the most important thing to me was what had just happened. That the whole near-death experience was just like, wow, what was that? You know, it's like I knew nothing about NDEs at all at this stage in my life, and I was very scared that I was going to forget it all, and I thought I can't forget this because it's so huge, and I've got to tell the world, you know. So I thought the best way to do this is I'm going to do a painting, and I'm going to do a huge painting, like a big sort of biblical style, you know, epic painting. So it started that very first night around, you know, in the early hours of the morning as I was recovering, you know. I started to think it through how I was going to put this together in a painting.
Wow. So didn't you say that you that very shortly when you gained consciousness, you're like, I've got to sketch it out, and you were like sketching things out. So you had this
Yeah.
within you. You had it like in you, wasn't it? Didn't you? I think you had said that before, that it was really in you to do this.
It's just, yeah, it was just a very strong urge. I need to do it, and there was nothing holding me back. I'd never done anything like this before. I'd never done any like large paintings or anything. You know, I was working on construction sites up until the accident itself, and because I'd left school with that qualification, so I wasn't trained to do all these things. But it didn't matter, because as I lay there in this room on my own, I just got this kind of machine bleeping, like an R2D2 thing. It was just me and the machine, and I just thought, no, I'm going to do it. It's going to be a big painting, and that's what I'm going to do. So my sister came in to visit me the very next night, and we were sat there quietly chatting. And she said, as all sisters would who were visiting, she said, look, as she left, she said, is there anything I can get you when I come back tomorrow? I said, yeah, can you get me a small sketch pad and a pencil? And she looked at me very puzzled, and she
I bet
said,
so.
yeah. She didn't know where I was coming from, but she followed it through, said, yeah. So she did. So she brought me in, like, it's like basically that was
That's
one of the
it?
pads that I had. Yeah.
Wow.
So you can see it was all beaten up there. So that's the size of it. And what happened was I couldn't move, because I was very weak, obviously, at that point. You know, I got tubes coming out of me and all sorts, you know. But I got the nurses to prop me up in bed and help me so that I could start sketching these ideas out for the painting. And it's very, I've still got the original sketches, and they're so faint I couldn't even show you now, because I was weak. But it was enough for me to be able to keep as a record. Not that I needed to, because I wasn't going to forget a single thing to this single day, you know. So
Right. And I think that that's what's interesting about near-death experiencers, is that it's not like a normal memory. It's part of our soul. It's not just the, maybe the pain part, don't remember that, but the part where we're connecting to the divine. And it's something, to me, I find very sacred.
yeah.
These paintings and so forth. So, okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So you really weren't doing any art before you had this
No.
tragic train accident. You weren't doing any, really, right? You were just working hard, long days.
Yeah.
This is something new.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have had time to do anything even if I wanted, because, working in construction, as most people will know, like in blue collar work, that you start early mornings and you end your day up sort of I used to end up my day going down to the local bar to hustle work for the next day, because that's where all the guys hung out. And then I go home, get something to eat, sleep, and work, so that's how it works. So yeah. So this was a whole new concept to me, but it didn't matter, because as you say, there's something shifts immediately that you don't even stop to think about. I thought, no, I'm going to pull this off. I've got to pull it off, because I just figured that the whole world has got to somehow figure out what has just happened to me. They've got to know that there's an afterlife, that life just doesn't stop at that point. It was very important to me, even then.
Well, you definitely pulled it off. Can we start showing pictures of your studio? Because I mean, this is just an incredible story. I mean, you're a miracle that you're living. But the fact is, and you're not in a wheelchair. You can talk. You look great. I mean, are we all perfect? Of course, none of us are. But you're a miracle. But then this is like an amazing gift that you were given by God. You're just, here it is. So it's so soulful. It's not just art. It's very soulful, and it has a certain energy to it that is just deeply beautiful. So I want to show your studio, if I can. Tell us about this.
Yeah, that's my studio setup. That's where I live also, and it's a converted mill right next to the river. And as you can see, the light is just like really quite golden. It's just like I've got sunlight coming through all day long, and it's just perfect for me to both create music and my paintings. And so that's where I am. And I felt that I was kind of that's the mess that I create on my table.
That's your mess.
But
the work of an artist here.
But it's happy mess, so that's great, so that's it. There's me again.
I guess we don't want to get too far ahead, but here you are working on one of your paintings, which I want to start from the beginning, how all this happened. And we'll throw this in here because you do live in Cambridge in the UK, and this is a local place near you, right?
That's actually in the East End of London. I was down there. There was a guy got in touch with me, actually, who's writing a book about people who've turned their lives around and stuff, and he'd read my story, or heard my story, I should say. So, and he's a photographer as well. So he said, "Oh, I want to photograph you." And he came because I used to live in London before all this happened, you see. And he was going to photograph me here in Cambridge, but he said, "You know what? The more you talk about your life, I feel like that it'd be great to do it in London. I feel that's where you were really, that's where you were based before this. So that's how that came about. So yeah.
Like a before and after.
Yeah.
So, definitely that's, but this is actually after your near-death
Oh, that's,
experience.
yeah, that's me. That's only
Right.
a few years ago. That is, yeah. So that's quite recent. So yeah.
And then we've got, I don't want to give away too many things. Should I, so you were doing sketches. Yeah, if you have sketches, we'll put that in here too. If you have sketches, we'll show, but otherwise, you want me to start with the first one?
Yeah, sure. Right. So this is the very first painting that I did, and I threw everything into that one basically, and that's almost like the sketch that was the first one I did in my book, which is, as I say, was very faint, and it's just really depicting the whole sort of near-death experience from start to finish, if you like. So yeah. So and um, that's where that's me laid out. I got this beautiful
Okay.
blue sheet that was covering me, and I felt very calm and comfortable with that sheet over me, and I just kind of, I just thought, well, this is like, and also you've got the guides, either the three guides all together who are around me, who are healing me, and they've got their hands going over my body, and they're not only healing the physical wounds I've just had, the trauma, but they're healing all the wounds to my soul that we all get throughout our lives. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yes, we all carry that around. That's interesting. I want to go in. Do you mind going in that concept? So you got the feeling that they were not only doing physical healings, but maybe not just the trauma as well, but you think it's even deeper. Maybe it was
Yeah.
just disappointments of life, like we all get, or just whatever it is.
Well, it's just that, to be honest with you, I'd gone through my life feeling pretty much like a failure. I was, I felt like I was constantly making mistakes, and I was always unhappy and looking over my shoulder, and for the first time ever in this realm, that didn't, it all dispersed, and I felt like all that was just slowly being shedded away. It felt like they were peeling off all the layers of baggage that I've been carrying throughout my life. And I know we all do that, so I'm not a man, but but it just felt like that. It just felt like, so I knew that it wasn't just the physical wounds, because in fact
Yeah.
I looked at my body to see how everything was, and everything was intact. There wasn't even a single scratch when I was in the actual near-death experience itself. So I knew that kind of confirmed it for me, really, that what they really were dealing with here was all, the history that I carried with me in
And
my soul.
so say that again. There wasn't a scratch on you from the near-death experience. I mean, there's
In
another.
in the actual near-death experience, where before, yeah, my left arm had been severed, so
Yeah, yeah,
it was pretty messy. So I was,
yeah.
but what I'm trying to say is, when I looked down, because it's the kind of thing you would do. I mean, I was trying to assess the whole scenario where I was, and I
Sure.
remember
Yeah,
lifting my head to look down, and the first thing you would do, isn't it, after a big accident,
yeah.
is to look at your wounds. And
Yeah,
I was astonished to see that
right.
everything was just completely as it was before, like it had been fixed.
Wow. So this is beautiful. Do you want to tell us all the people in this, and what the bright light is as you see it, and the
Yeah.
panels above?
Yeah, sure. The three panels of white light that are above me, I saw them from the off, actually. They're one of the first things I saw. And I couldn't take my gaze out of that light, because it was a pure white light energy that was coming from it. And again, I knew that it was more than just light itself. I felt there was a healing force coming from that light. And the other light that's at my feet, that's the most profound moment of the near-death experience itself, because that's the tunnel of white light that I
Yeah.
saw. So yeah, and it was surrounded by all these dramatic flames that were slowly sort of circling around the light itself. But the energy that came from that light was just like, wow, it was just so intense. And again, it was an intense energy of love. I remember feeling like, wow, every single molecule of my body was vibrating from this love.
Well, you brought that back.
I hope so.
Because your energy has changed. It's funny. I can usually pick up with other near-death experiencers, even if they haven't told me, if they have, because we bring back a different energy. So that's another bonus. not trying to sell the NDE thing, because it's, you don't need to have one to experience love from the divine. So tell me, you've got, this looks like an angel here to the at the top, my
Yeah,
left.
the angels, I put those in because
Hmm.
I didn't actually see the two that are flying above, but I
Okay.
wanted to, because I was so keen to tell everybody what had happened, that I thought I wanted to try and paint that it wasn't just three people surrounding me, that
A lot.
there was
Yeah.
a massive amount of energy that was going on, that
Mhm.
was in that realm, that was just so powerful. And I just thought there were angels, so there were definitely angels that were there, but I didn't want to paint them with wings either. So so they're kind of, that's why I put them in. And there's also, you can see there's like a small sort of image there. There's
Yeah,
a
a
chap. Uh,
man. Yeah.
that's a man. Yeah, that's my grandfather. And that was interesting because I was getting towards the end of the painting, and for some reason there was a space on the canvas that I hadn't got round to filling in. And I thought, there's a reason for that, isn't there? Because I knew by this stage that I was being helped to do this painting, that I was being channeling ideas through. And I'd been to I'd been going to the local spiritualist church because I discovered them after I'd come out of hospital, and wanted to get some affirmation really on what
Yeah,
had happened, and talk to
for
them.
sure.
And I'd go each week to their services, and they'd have like a medium would do what they call the
Mhm,
platform for half an hour.
mhm.
And I was getting picked out pretty much most weeks because, the energy was still obviously very, sort of vibrating off me, I guess. So I don't know. I didn't take it as any sort of like, oh, but they started to laugh at me in the church. They're going, oh, here we go, it's him again. But they kept saying nearly every single meeting, because they come from all over the country, so they knew nothing about me or the accident. But each one would say every week that my grandfather was with me, and they give very vivid descriptions that only I would know personally, that that was him. I was going,
Right.
oh my goodness, how would anybody know that? So I thought, he's going in the painting, because he's
For
coming
sure.
through. He's got to go in. And not only that, I was told by one of the mediums that he was very pivotal in saving me on the day of the accident, as I went under that train, along
Really?
with a power animal. So I was told there was a power animal that was taking place, which I'm not at all surprised, because I felt there was something bigger than me and that huge train that saved
Wow.
me that day. But my
So he
grandfather, yeah,
it was him. So he helped be a part of that to help you and support you.
yeah,
Wow.
that's
And
right.
it's,
So he went in, yeah.
look at his head and look at the other side, almost looks like a heart.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Like
and
a
again, I that wasn't intentional, and I hadn't even noticed it until other people have since pointed it out, like yourself. That it's
heart.
like a heart. Yeah.
It looks
So
like a
yeah,
heart. And then
yeah,
it's funny, when you look down below, it almost looks like, I mean, you could, this is just what my eyes are saying, but down below, it looks like skull and bones. It almost looks like your past is going away. You know how we have skeletons in our closet? It's almost like, oh, these are things you don't need anymore. I don't know if you see it at the bottom. It's like,
yeah,
your old self, you don't need that. Because whatever they're doing, it's like that it looks like they're um, removing things and then I guess adding
sure.
things in there. So it's very powerful. Did you want to go to the next one, or are
Yeah,
you?
sure. Yeah.
This is amazing. It's beautiful.
So yeah, no, this was the second painting that I did, based on my experience, and I wanted to focus basically on, first of all, the rock that I was laid out on, because I suddenly realised that I was laid on like a huge slate rock, which you wouldn't think would be very comfortable, considering you're no longer wearing any clothes either. But it was
Right.
remarkably comfortable, and I didn't want to move from it. And so that is also, that painting depicts the scene where I first discovered my guide, my spirit guide, who was the first person to come into view, as it were. And this spirit guide, my was stood there wearing like a very simple black contemporary t-shirt, as you can see there, and
Right.
had this very sort of white blonde hair, but with this skin that was glowing from within. And it was neither a male nor female. I was trying to figure it out, and I kept saying, "Who are you? I know you, don't I? I know you, you know."
Yeah.
And he or she just kept grinning back at me. So but I felt guarded. So I just wanted to try and put that into that painting, that was the first person that I saw in it, and you know, that image of being guarded. And that was really important to me.
And
And
and this person here, that you said that they were kind of came across androgynous, but the feeling that you got, you just knew that they were part of your, I guess, your guides, your team. But um, do you think it was what people would consider an angel?
yeah, it is what you I would consider it like, you know, my ultimate spirit guide, the keeper to my soul. It felt like, you know, I knew that I was being looked after, and I but not only that, I felt that I'd known this person throughout my whole life and beyond. You know, I felt like we knew each other really, really well, and
That's
so
it.
I'm kind of. Uh, I wonder whether it's actually, you know, you know, my high consciousness as well, my higher self that I was looking at.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep if you think about that. That's but you probably had a sense of comfort having this person around, or this say person, this
Mm.
advanced being around, whether
Yeah.
it's your higher self or not. Oh, tell us about I call it the God portal. That is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that was again. I wanted to try and when paint it again, I wanted to try and bring out those dramatic flames that were just circling all around, and the nebulas that were just coming from it. And it's interesting because you see just to the left hand side of it, there's kind of like almost like a trail of fire coming out of it, and that
Yeah.
was guided. I didn't plan that at all. That just kind of just started to appear, and I just developed it, and because I thought, right, you know, because I'd learned by then that whatever happens, you
Mm.
just go with it, and
You
and
mean like
uh,
this part here where it's coming out and radiating?
it's it's actually no, it's just it's if you go back to the original again,
Okay.
so it's like
Okay.
just there's like a sort of, can you see? It's almost like a sort of a line of fire itself.
Yeah,
It's just
like a
kind of like
swirl coming off the top. Yes.
yeah, like and that is very interesting because after I was just finishing this painting off, somebody got in touch with me and who'd seen my painting and said, "Have you seen the news?" And I said, "No, why?" They said, "Oh, they've got these new amazing photographs from the Hubble telescope from the far reaches of our galaxy." And it's your paintings. I was going, what? So I stuck it on, and there is an image that looks almost identical to that sort of line of fire that's coming off there. That was in
Wow.
these Hubble telescope images, which had come through after I'd finished painting it, almost at the same time. So it was like really that again. That was a lovely moment of affirmation, and really sort of like sent a real shiver down my spine. It was beautiful.
Wow.
So
Do you want
yeah,
to go to this one too? I'm
yeah.
so obsessed with these God portals. I
No,
mean,
yeah, no, go
I'm
for it. Yeah,
so
you will
obsessed
be. Yeah,
with
of course you will. You've been there and done it, so you know. So this is me again. This is taking myself. This is my apartment that I lived in London. So I was living in a square in London. So that was just, and that was me walking down the street. So I wanted to try and show the kind of contrast where I was before all this happened, and that was me sort of like wandering down my street. And then I wanted to show that there was that something was about to change, and it was all pre-planned basically, and it was
Mm.
ahead of me that I couldn't even see it. But so yes, it's almost like a sort of like I was trying to get the whole, you know, sort of earth to be moving. I wanted to get movement in that, just to show the pure energy of what was about to happen, really.
Wow. And it looks like this fella here, you,
Yeah,
is
that's me.
just
Yeah,
having a casual day, pretty clueless.
he's doing his daily thing. Yeah, the day in day out, so work, pub, and then sleep.
Wow. Yeah, this is you had no idea. And can I go ahead and show the cover of your book? You chose to use this image.
Yes, please
Okay.
do. Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I
thank
guess since the book is up there, people can purchase this on Amazon.com. But this came about since were showing it. You wrote the book how soon after the incident?
Oh, this is more recent. I wrote the book. There's just all these different things that happen one stage after another. I mean, interestingly enough, those mediums you would also keep turning around each week saying, "Oh, we're seeing a computer screen. We're being given. They're telling us that you're going to write something. Write your story. Is that right?"
Yeah.
And I sit there and go, "Well, I wish," because being dyslexic as I am, I thought there's no way I'm ever going to write this book. Then a friend of mine got in touch with me. I hadn't seen for some time. I'd known for years, and we got chatting. And she said we were talking about my story, and she said, "Why don't I ghostwrite? Sorry, co-write it with you, and then we can put it together. We can, we can try and get it into some kind of form of a book." And I said, "Yeah, great." So we just worked really hard together. We just did hours and hours of interviewing and tapes and talking. And I just told her everything, the whole ins and outs, nuts and bolts of the story. And then she, structured it. And then we didn't even think, to be honest with you, we just thought, okay, we got it to the stage where it's finished. Maybe we should just self-publish it and put a few out. Then I said, no, I don't think we should. This is too big and this is too great. I think we've got to try and get it published. And Dr. Raymond Moody had got a hold of a copy of the manuscript because we'd sent it out to a few people, and we'd sent it to him ages ago and we heard nothing back. Then his manager just kind of stumbled across the email by chance one day, and she just got in touch. She'd seen my website and everything, and she said, "Your story is amazing. Raymond's going to love this. He gets so much stuff, he probably overlooked it, so I'm going to make sure he reads it." So he did, and he loved it, and he said he wanted to write the foreword for the book, which is absolutely brilliant. So it was almost like, I'm not saying that it opened doors or anything like that, but it opened up, sort of the energy opened up suddenly then.
Yeah.
It just suddenly felt like, wow, it's, and then we got approached by a publisher in the UK, and this guy just said, "Look, I was handed a copy of a manuscript. I love it. Would you mind if I took it to my team?" And I said, "Well, yeah, please do." So that's how it all started. So yeah, so that came out that only came out last June.
Yeah, that's what you were saying on the last interview, that 2020 was actually really good for you because you were able to
Mm.
read the book, people are reading it, they've had the time to do these things, and you've had time to talk about your experience. So it's all your perspective on that. So that's beautiful artwork, and
Great, thank you.
it's very powerful. So do you want to speak about this? That's
Yeah,
a
sure.
concept, isn't it?
So that is, again, that's a more intense sort of painting of the actual portal, as you put it, the tunnel of white light, and again, just trying to get all these nebulous and beautiful, incredible flames. Because again, normally that would be pretty scary because it was very awesome and very awe-inspiring. But to me, it just felt so exciting, and I felt
Yeah.
safe anyhow. And all I could feel was like, well, when I looked at it, I was getting lots of telepathy coming through, and I
Mhm.
was just told pretty much straight away that what I was looking at here was not just a tunnel of white light, but this was the source of all creation. This is what I was
Yes.
told. This is what I'm staring at. So I thought that's incredible.
You know,
So
I would love to. I mean, I'm just amazed by this, but I will tell you something. Out of all the near-death experiencers that have talked about the white light, and I know they're all different ones, and the tunnels and so forth. But I saw this exact thing
oh man, that's
when I
brilliant.
was coming back, and I didn't really want to explain it because it sounds like fire. It sounds like, well, where'd you go to hell? And I'm like, no, it wasn't that. It was like
Yeah,
really gold and white with lots of fire. But when you said it's creation, that's what it was, because there was an angel Uriel in front of it. I was in this world and there, and
yeah,
I saw this, and until I saw your paintings, like that was it. Because people, oh, the white light and all that. Well, yeah, you know, people are glowy and the way I saw it, but this is how I saw it. This is how I saw
brilliant. That's
it. It
great.
looked like a rip in the universe, and it looked like this. But until I can now refer people to your images, because it sounds scary to say flames, but I totally get when you say creation, I
Yeah,
get that in my soul. That's what I get.
brilliant. Great.
Yeah. So
That's
see,
lovely.
already it's paying off. Because I'm like,
Synchronicity.
yeah, I was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, this is the thing. I said, I've never seen anyone paint it like that. I see the white light and I'm like, no, mine had a lot going on. It was that. So, what about do you want to go to this image afterwards and explain that?
Yeah, sure. Now this painting I did was really again for me to try and process because obviously, going through a massive accident like that is quite a big one to deal with, going under a train, and so I wanted to try and process it and paint what I'd seen, what had happened, and what I felt at the time. So it started off really with my arm being ripped open. That's what the first thing I saw, and after the train had moved on, and I remember actually looking in, even though my arm looked really gruesome, as you can see there, that I didn't feel like, oh my god, that's awful. I just thought, wow, that's the inside of my arm. Those are all the workings of my arm. I could see all the nerve endings, and I was fascinated by it, which is really remarkable. But
Yeah.
so I wanted to paint that and paint that's what I saw and what I felt. And so the painting starts down at the bottom there, where you've got those are all the emergency guys in their big swishy, sort of fluorescent jackets who jumped down on the track trying to save me.
Yeah.
So it started with that at that point, and it was great because I got in touch. We raised money, my families, to help give money back to the ambulance people because they're actually a charity run concern, which is crazy.
Yeah.
They have to fly air ambulances and stuff. But so we raised money for them, and I remember we went into their HQ to give them the money we'd raised, gave them a check. And I said, "Oh, I don't know if you remember me." And they go, "Yeah, we remember you. Of course we do." And then I said, "Well, look, I'm doing a painting. Have you got any photographs of your guys? The outfits you wear?" And they said, "Yeah. Well, why don't you borrow one?" So they gave us like a whole outfit. So
Oh,
that was really cool. So I got friends and family just to wear them
yeah.
while I was getting them to model. So that's how that started. But back to the actual sort of raw essence of that painting. I had no idea that tidal wave was going to appear again. I was being led, I was being guided. I didn't know how to take it from the dark into the light. I intended to take it from the dark into the light because that was the whole part of the journey.
Yeah.
And it just suddenly appeared as I was painting, the way the colors were going on, and I suddenly stood
Yeah.
back one day and I thought, that's a tidal wave. So I developed it from that stage. And I'd already got the cat in there, and I'd already got the cellist up in the sky. They were just suspended in blue air at that point, but suddenly it all fitted in.
Yeah. The cat's looks like it's surfing now.
It
Uh,
does.
so tell us about
Happily.
this cat. You said the cat, you felt like you were telling before a little bit about this cat and maybe had a premonition or just
Yeah,
sort of knew.
exactly. Animals know so much, don't they? They
They
really do. They
do.
know when something's going to happen.
It's
They know
true.
when somebody's ill. They know all these different things. They know when somebody's passed on or whatever. But so in this case, I'd been staying at my sister's at the time before the accident, and that's her cat. And he came in the room and he just kind of jumped up on top of this really high sort of wardrobe. It was like right. It was a very old cottage, so he was like kind of almost like trapped in between the top of this wardrobe and the ceiling, in a very awkward spot. And I thought, how did he get up there? It's like it's a big jump. And I thought, what's he doing up there? And he had his paw just dangling over, as you can see there. He just kept looking at me. This was as I was getting ready to leave to the station with my friend to see her off. And I remember we both noticed it as well. I spoke to him. I said, "What's wrong? What is it? What?" It's almost like, "What are you trying to tell me?" So he knew what was about to come.
Yeah,
So he
that's
had to go in the painting.
yeah, yeah. Animals are very perceptive of things. And
Yeah.
tell us about the cello player.
Yeah, I put the cellist in there because I went throughout my time in hospital recovering. Music was a great thing to lift me, to help me recover. I got like a little iPod and I was listening to music all the time. And there was one album in particular which was like Kate Bush, Ariel, and that album was just so uplifting. It was just wow.
Mm.
So yeah, I wanted to sort of put music in there because just to show that was a huge part of my recovery.
Wow.
So that was before I'd even started thinking about writing music myself.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that wild? Well, they say that music helps when you are recovering.
Yeah,
So it's, I imagine it does soothe the soul. And I wanted to jump down here so we can see that one image as you're working again closer from a new perspective.
yeah.
and then you can see it from that
That's
perspective.
it. Yeah, that's the same painting. Yeah.
And then you've got, this is, now I want you to talk about this one. And when did this come along?
Sure. This came along afterwards. This one's called My Realization of Christ, because before my accident, I got no spiritual beliefs. I wasn't Christian. I wasn't thinking. I didn't go to church or anything. But while I was having one of the spiritual healing sessions, that an image of Christ came through while I was being healed, and it was very, very vivid. It was very strong. It was very powerful, and so I thought, wow, that's great, And then I didn't think anything about it. But after the healing finished, we all sat around drinking water, and one of the healers turned around, Joy, who actually passed away only 4 days ago, actually, bless her.
Oh,
And
God,
yeah,
yes, God bless her.
yeah, God bless her. She was amazing. And so anyway, so she turned around and said, before I'd even said it, she said, David, you know that Christ was with you while I was healing you then? I was going, no way. And she said, yeah. And she said, he was stood beside you. And she said, but he was behind me as I was sending through the energy to you. And I said, well, then I explained what I'd seen, and I thought, I've got to go home and paint this straight away. So I did.
Yeah.
That one started really quick, and that's all showed. It's showing the bottom there. You can see the river because I'm right next to the river where I live. So I wanted to show that he was there, present in my space, in my neighborhood, where I was actually living and with me, and looking really healthy as well, because all the images we see of Christ at his worst possible point, where he's hanging from a cross. I
It's
know
true.
I know it's true. I know we have to have that for obvious reasons, but at the same time, I wanted to give him how I saw him, which is looking really healthy and sort of wearing this beautiful white robe. So yeah, there he is.
Yeah, I saw him over there in my near-death experience in 2 of them, and he was very healthy and muscular. He was lean, but muscular. He looked healthy and very glowy, because I noticed you got the glowy. He's very glowy inside and outside. It's hard to explain. It's like an inner light bulb. That's beautiful. So everybody always asks the same questions over and over. What color was his eyes? What color do you perceive his eyes? Like it matters.
Ah, I tried to sort of leave that open. I didn't want, they're kind of like there's a bit of blue in there, there's a bit of green, there's a bit of brown.
Exactly.
So I didn't go for like, oh yeah, he's a blue-eyed boy or whatever. So
Yeah. It's funny because when I saw him, it was like his eyes were alive, and it was blue and green, and it even had some gold. It was just like, it was kind of like your portal. It was like a lot going on. So
yeah,
this is absolutely stunning. So let me see if there is I think you've got another picture too of you standing by your images.
yeah, that's me in my space there. That's where, as you can
And
see, that's where I live as well. That's me. So yeah,
it's very artsy and cool.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm very lucky. I just came across it one day. In fact, I saw this building when I first moved here, when I was recovering. I remember I used to walk down to the river with my sister when I was recovering, and we sat there one day, and I looked over. I said, I'm going to live there one day. And she smiled at me, and then an apartment just came up 2 years later, and I went and looked at it, and I knew as soon as I walked in. Normally, I'm the kind of person, that has to sort of really think things over, and I think, I'm not so sure. But I walked in, and I just said, yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, the energy just. It was me. This is my spiritual home. That this is it. There's no question of it, and it still feels that way. I still really love it. So,
yeah. Well, I told you that you have a lot of spirit people around you.
You
And
did,
then you
yeah.
told me, it was so funny. You said that Arthur Finley, which is a lot of evidential mediums train there from around the world. They fly there. It's like 5 miles away. I'm like, well, duh, of course you. And a lot of people that have had near-death experience have been spirit, or even if it's quick, you don't have to be code blue, but I think spirit likes us because we're closer to we at that moment closer to them. So we're kind of spirit too. Maybe they recognize us. I don't know. You want to talk about your angel painting? It's beautiful.
Oh right, yeah. That's actually Kate Moss, the model, Kate Moss. I don't know if you're familiar with her at all. Yeah.
Yes.
And this came about actually because there was a reason for me doing this as well, because before my accident, I was hitting hard times. I was running out of money, and I was starting to drink quite heavily. And I remember thinking that I was very. Some people got it. People who were close to me really were concerned, and they wanted to help me. But there were others who I figured were really good friends, were just kind of turning their backs on me. And I thought, I don't get it. I don't understand what's wrong, you know. But and that's quite
Really?
that. Yeah, that's
And it's not
and
who you thought.
it's sorry.
Yeah. It's not who you thought. You thought
It's
you
well, no,
thought
it's
they would
just I
be
was just
there.
shocked because it was
Yeah,
almost like they just kind of turned the light switch off and said, "You don't exist anymore. You know, you're no longer in my life," which is really odd, and obviously very hurtful. But
yeah,
um, sometime later, I started doing some paintings, and I was reading headlines of different people who were in the media who were being, and Kate must have been one of them. And the media sort of who wants it was, I felt a kinship with this because I thought the media loved her when she first came out. They said, "Oh, beautiful Kate and beautiful Kate," and then suddenly they turned on her and they said, "Oh,
mhm,
disgraced Kate stumbling out of a nightclub," and that's where that image comes from because
mhm.
the paparazzi got on one night in the early hours of the morning, coming out of a nightclub. So they say worse for wear, and they said, "Oh, she's been using or whatever." But I can't remember what it was, but they
Yeah,
just attacked her in the same
they
way,
think
and I
that's
thought that is it, and it's rung off bells. So I thought, right, I'm going to do a series of paintings of people in the media who have been through the same thing or going through the same thing as I felt, and so. And I thought I took that image literally from the paparazzi shots of her. She's literally walking down the steps of a nightclub there, wearing the gear she was wearing. But I thought I'm going to give her some beautiful angel wings and then have some cherubs guiding her out. And suddenly people turn around and say, "That is a beautiful painting." And I say, "Well, there you go. That's just how everyone should have seen her." What I'm trying to say is that no matter what people were saying about the lifestyle she may have been leading at that point or whatever, or the way they were criticizing her,
yeah.
she's a beautiful soul inside, like
Yeah.
like all of us. So that was the idea behind that. Yeah,
Well, I think that I mean that's also a beautiful self-expression of making your I don't know if you want to say social comment. It's not really political, but social comment about being kind to people and seeing beyond and seeing what's in their soul. You know,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
beautiful.
Yeah,
So we've got, I think we've covered a lot of the art. Now I know you'll continue to do things. I understand that. But before we get into the music section of this, do you feel the images that you get? Do you feel like you're divinely inspired? And that might be a good place to kind of parlay the music because you definitely
mm,
it's gorgeous. You're definitely divinely inspired with the music. How does this
yeah.
work through you, the divine or channeling or information working through you as you see it? Do you get excited? I know I usually get excited. How does it work?
Yeah,
Sometimes
totally. Yeah.
you're like,
Well,
ah.
I never ask for it. I never say, "Can you give me some inspiration, please? I want to. I'm stuck here," or I
It's like,
never
"I'll
ever
take a
ask
cup
for
of
it.
tea, thank you."
Yeah, but I basically try and put myself in the moment when I'm creating. I try not, and just if you get bad days, you get bad days. If you get good days, it's great. And when I get good days, then I know I'm being helped because the ideas that are coming through are far greater than anything that I could put together. And I always, to this day, will sit back as I am in my chair now and go, "Thank you so much. Thank you. That is beautiful." And I mean it right from deep within. Yes, I mean it's just like it's wonderful. It's just an amazing feeling to channel and to get this help. It's just, and for it to continue. Because I figured that I might
Yeah.
only get help at the beginning, and they would say, "Right, you're on your own." But that's
No.
not the case.
Oh, they're
They're
not.
working with me
Oh,
constantly, and even more now, in fact, because my
oh, yeah.
my journey's kind of like sort of opening out. It's becoming even more three-dimensional, if you like. So I feel that they are with me even more intensely, which is really fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I can't say that's what I'm saying. You're gonna be doing so much because 'cause you're still being fed information. And matter of fact, a lot of near-death experience, especially that have the white light experience or the tunnel or whatever, the higher levels galaxy, whatever it is, they are getting information too. Now, how it comes through them may be, it's still beautiful, but how they decide to manifest it, it could be
Yeah.
different. So I'm sure they helped you with your book too, because you were like, "Oh no, I'm
Oh,
just."
totally. Yeah,
And you're like,
yeah.
oh,
I mean, they
give
just
me the word.
they helped me not so much in just putting it together, but they helped me in as much as uh, once it was put together, that there was a lot of synchronicity would happen. Like I say, Dr. Raymond Moody, who's like I mean, he coined the phrase near-death experience. So that was incredible for him to sort of get involved, and
Oh,
lots of synchronicity happened to make the book come out and for it to come out into the world. And as we talked about earlier, as you pointed out, it came out last year, and right at the start of the pandemic, I just sat back and I thought to myself, well, when the whole world suddenly the whole world went like that, I felt the energy just go off kilter, and I thought,
yeah,
oh wow, the world just stopped, and I thought the
odd.
book's coming out this year, and I thought, I wonder what's going to happen. But I
Yeah,
didn't sweat about it at all, because I thought, well, it'll find its own journey, it'll find its own
uh,
feet, and it did. And not only that, that it, as you pointed out, it actually worked in my favor, for me anyway, personally, because it meant that I was able to connect with so many people via, Zoom or via whatever various platforms across the world,
yeah,
and do interviews, which beforehand, I think my publishers would have said, "Oh, you're going to have to get on a plane and fly out to Los Angeles, and then come back, and then go out to New York again 2 weeks later," which would have been completely bonkers, because I can't afford to do that. So
yeah,
suddenly, it's great that
yeah, you
I
can.
was being helped to sort of, bring all this together and do it.
Absolutely. And I think that even mentioning that, not the pandemic itself and people that were sick or died, God
Oh,
bless
of
them.
course not. No, yeah,
I don't mean
sorry.
that. But on a flip side, I think that it was a chance for everybody to reflect and kind of, to get information about their own life and to channel their own message. So yeah, it was
Absolutely.
perfect timing for you. And you're right. The world's changed. Now people are like, okay, I could go to LA, blah, 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 all these places. Hey, why not just do it over Zoom?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I don't. I mean, there are family members, 3 family members that had COVID, so I don't underplay that or the downside of it. But
Yeah.
what I meant from it was that something positive came out of it for me, basically, in terms of being able to get something positive out to the world. So yeah,
Oh, yeah. And it was perfect timing. People needed a positive message.
yeah,
So
exactly, they did. Yeah.
let's go here and talk about this creation of how this started happening with your music.
Yeah, sure. So that's me there. That's my work setup when it comes to writing music. So that's my sort of keyboard there. That's called a MIDI keyboard and stuff. So that's kind of like that's plugged into my laptop. So I basically, I started composing basically in a very much a primitive state. I can't believe I did it actually. How I managed to write the first symphony, how I did. But I started off with a very old cheap sort of Spanish synthesizer, really old plastic thing that I pulled out and dusted off, and I used that and an old cassette recorder. That's all I got. And so I would write each individual part on, playing on this and recording it onto the cassette recorder, and then just piecing it all together. And then my brother turned around, and he said, "Look, I got this software that you can have, and that you can, once you get yourself a new laptop," which I did. And he said, "You'll be able to sort of get a keyboard, and then you'll be able to play it, and then you'll be able to, it'll go into, as you can see there, you can see that's the setup I've got there, and you can layer, or you can keep all the layers there in front of you. You can hear them all back played together, which is great." So not only that, I can't read or write notation, any music at all, music format, as it were,
So it's all
still to
here.
this. So it's all hearing. So it's all what I hear, and all that was coming through to me and channeled through. And I still don't read or write music, and I don't intend to try and learn, because it's
You're being
working as
called.
I'm going along, and to me, to start intellectualizing it is not a good idea now. So yeah, so that's
It's
how that
working.
it's working, and also with that program I've got there, I've got another program that my brother gave me, which means that it can convert all the work that I'm doing then into musical notation, so I can print it off and give it to
How
various members of the
cool.
orchestra.
Wow,
Yeah,
so many advances have been made in what do they call it, MIDI sequencing with the
yeah,
music that it can turn into music. And so let's pull this up. So
that's the music
you're
score. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, so this turned into what you did, into what you heard, and you put
yeah.
it in. So how did that work? You actually put it into your synthesizer, your computer, your keyboards, and then you created this sound, and then you're like, this has to be played by a symphony? How
Yeah,
did this
yeah, exactly. I mean, it started
really?
off initially that I thought I'd been told by when I was going for the spiritual healing sessions, because a few of them would give me sort of psychic messages, short messages afterwards, very short ones, but they kept saying each week that you're going to write music about your experience. So I thought, okay, so I was trying to write a 3-minute song, if you like, about it, and it just wasn't happening. Like I talked about bad days, good days, and these were just lots of ones of bad days after another, and I thought this is not meant to be. And then suddenly I heard this lovely chord sequence and I say lovely because I knew it wasn't coming from me, it was coming from someone else. And I jumped out of bed, and then I recorded it into my cassette recorder, and then I made some coffee, and I came back, played it back. I thought, wow, that is just like beautiful. And I developed it, and I thought, this is going to
Wow.
be for an orchestra. This is not a 3-minute song. That's why it wasn't happening. It's not meant to be a 3-minute song. So I had the cellist who I painted in that earlier painting. We'd become friends, and we used to meet for coffees. And she played in a local orchestra, and she said, "What have you been up to?" So I told her about this new piece of music I was writing and stuff, and what it was about. And she laughed and said, "Maybe we could perform it." And so I held her to her word, and I just worked like. Oh, I didn't work really hard. It all started to come together really quick, and I got the first movement all finished. And I said, "Look, I've written a movement. Would you have a look at it?" And she said, "Yeah." And so the orchestra looked at it, and they said, "Yeah, we'll do it. We'll perform your piece." So it was
And
like, wow.
so this is amazing how this happened. So the time you came up with this music, and then you have the divine part 1,
Yeah,
2, and 3.
yeah.
And they played, I guess, all this. If you could
They
tell us,
played the whole thing. Yeah,
yeah, about.
it was a symphony in the end, so it became a symphony. So there was 3 movements to it. So I learned that. My brother told me that. He said, "You need, if you've got quite a bit there, you need to put that into 3 movements." So I did, and yeah. So I'd only written the first movement when they agreed to play it, but I remember turning up to the rehearsal. That's the rehearsal there, and I turned up, and they rehearsed in this lovely old converted church, which is a venue also. And anyway, so I remember walking in. I walked into the room. That's the
Oh, that's
concert
the
performance
actual thing.
itself. That's the actual. Yeah, that's it. So there was a standing ovation afterwards. It was
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
atmosphere because
It's
the
beautiful
whole
there.
it's an amazing place. It's got a real great energy, that building. It really has. And I remember just like while it's been performed, a dove came and landed just on the window ledge,
No.
just from the opening chords. And that it wasn't just me saying that because because the whole of the spiritualist church came that evening, and one of the people, one of the healers, turned around and said, "Oh, did you realize a dove landed?" I said, "Yeah, I saw it right at that opening chord, and stayed throughout the whole piece. It's amazing."
Wow.
So yeah, but
Dove, what does dove mean? Peace, or so it's done, or a dove is also a messenger, or dove is also Holy Spirit. Who knows? Could be all of it. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
well, it's a friend of mine pointed out to me a few days back, actually, only a few days, saying that um, she'd seen a lot of old paintings of biblical scenes like the one I was talking about, and
Mhm.
and the images of God. There's a dove in a lot of those scenes where you've got him. So it's obviously
Yeah.
associated with divine as well. So
Yeah, and it's called the divine light. You
it's
gotta have
called the
a dove.
divine light. Yeah,
You
it's called
gotta
the
have
divine
a
light.
dove. I mean, that just makes sense. I mean, that's your logo. You gotta have a dove.
That's it. Yeah, that was my emblem for the night. Yeah.
And the other thing, a white dove, it also stands for this purity. Not purity like, oh, good enough, but purity like the essence of pureness and love,
Mm,
right?
that's
So
right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's pretty powerful. So when you got to get, so you asked your friend, and she says, "We'll do it." I mean, how did that
Yeah.
happen? And then, I see that of course, they practice first.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Where she got it together, where they did it, and then how did you meet up with them, and what part of it did you play?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, I said, she said, "Look, I'll get a couple of the main people from the orchestra who decide what we're performing, and meet you for coffee and bring the score with you." So I did. So I took that score, And I showed it, and we just sat there having coffee, and they can read music and know how it's going to sound, which is incredible. I don't know how they do that, but they don't even have to listen. So they were looking through it all, and I said, "Oh, would you like a cassette tape?" And they said, "No, this is fine." And they said, "Yeah, we'll do it. This looks really good." And they were commenting on some of the the chords. They were going, "I can't believe it," because I'm non-academic with music,
Yeah.
and they were saying,
Yeah.
"You've got a C sharp major here over a B flat. Nobody would ever do that normally." And I was going, "Oh dear," They go, "No, it's
It's
great,
brilliant.
it's brilliant,"
It's brilliant.
and it was almost like
You're
so. It
like,
was like,
okay, then leave it
yeah,
then.
yeah, leave it, don't touch it. It's almost like an act of bravery. They thought that I'd done that, but I thought, I don't know. I mean, because I'll tell you, I mean, I remember the first rehearsal when I walked in. I mean, I was really nervous. I was apprehensive because I walked in, and I mean, because orchestras they were lovely people, but they're very highly educated and they know their skill. They
That's
knew their
good.
stuff, and they don't kind of give too much emotion away. And I walked in, and the conductor said, "Oh, the composer's here," and I was thinking, "What, composer?" And,
You
so I
are.
walked over, and yeah, I know, but I didn't see myself like that. I still thought,
Sure.
no, this is just me. And so he said, "Would you say a few words about your piece?" And I didn't want to. I said, "No, just go ahead." And he said, "No, come on." So I did. And then, of course, when I told the story of what it was about, people were just kind of like really drawn in and really fascinated by the whole journey. And that was great for me because it meant that I was able to get across how I wanted it to sound. And I still was nervous because I didn't know how whether it was going to work or not. It could have been shambolic for all I knew. So I just stood back, and I was stood there, and the first opening chords came in that I first wrote on that little synthesizer that morning, and it sounded beautiful. It just sounded like it was like I'd recommend it to anyone. Just to hear a piece of music that you've written played by an orchestra is just wow. It's just stunning. It's like three-dimensional sound. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, did you want to show a little bit of a clip
Yeah.
of the video and
Sure.
let everybody see a little bit of that? That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
the BBC came down and they filmed most of that. So they just again, I've been helped. It was almost like I've been helped to
Wow.
bring. Yeah, it
The
was.
BBC came down? Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
but it was. I couldn't believe it. I mean, the orchestra turned around to me after the first rehearsal, and they said, "Look, would you mind saying a few words to the local press? We normally do that to promote the concert." I said, "Yeah, of course." So when I spoke to the local press guys, they said, "Hang on a sec, you're the guy who went under the train, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "This has got to go on the front page. This is a brilliant story." So they got it straight away. And after that, the phone kept ringing, and then there was more press got involved, and then it started going sort of uh, to the BBC, and they said, "We want to come and film. We want to interview you at the rehearsal." So it sold out 2 weeks in advance, the concert, which is incredible. The orchestra was just blown away. They said, "This never happens. This is amazing." So it was wonderful. It made the whole experience of the concert itself really magical because just having all those people crammed in, they got more people in than what they could have done. So it was wall to wall of people just listening to the music and enjoying it and stuff. So that was great. Yeah.
So how long did they like in this shot they're practicing, and then when you finally had the final evening, um,
Yeah.
about your story, The Divine Light, and Evening with David Ditchfield, like tonight, when did this finally happen? Was it 2 weeks, 2 months later? When did this occur?
Well, this actual concert itself took part in this 2 years later from my accident. itself. So really, that's quite fast, because
Yes.
it's in terms of the orchestra itself, they don't plan. They plan like about 18 months ahead what the next concert's going to be, and the rehearsals were spread out over. They started in the oh, I can't remember now. I can't remember where they started, but it took about a good 6 months of rehearsing, because they break it, they
Okay.
rehearse all their other pieces and what have you, which gave me time to write the rest, and get it all together and stuff. So yeah.
Oh,
So it all happened really fast. I'm pretty amazed when I look back. I think that I was after going under a train, that 2 years later I was having a sellout performance of a piece of music that I'd never done anything like before. So yeah, the music itself. And from that point onwards as well, I started getting commissions, because people really enjoyed it, and a couple of members of the orchestra themselves saying, "Look, there was these guys in the clarinet players. They say, we've got we play in a group called the Cambridge Clarinet Choir, and we'd love to commission you." And I said, "Yeah, great." And so it all went from there. And they, when I turned up for that, they were lovely people, and they said, "Oh, um, would you mind writing something spiritual again?" I was going, "Well, I
yeah.
mind, of course, yeah, definitely." And I said, "I can write it about my experience, but again." And they said, "Yeah, please do." So that was lovely. So that was writing for a completely different thing, a clarinet choir. They've got all these different sized clarinets. The bass one's about, it's like about 6 foot in length, and it's like when they blow it, I said, "Can you blow it for me?" And it sounded like a huge ship coming into a harbor.
Wow.
So that was beautiful, and that sold out as well. That premiered to sell out a concert, so that was lovely.
So is that when you started releasing the Divine Light 1, 2, and 3 during that time, or did that all happen at the concert the
No, it all
first?
happened at the concert. Yeah, a symphony. As I say, it has 3 movements, so it's all performed. So it was all performed as one. Yeah, they're all 3 movements together.
Can we play a little bit of the sample of the
Please
Divine
do.
Light?
Yeah. Again, it wasn't. I didn't think about it too hard. It all came very organically. The first movement came, and I knew straight away that it was going to be taking you from the start of the journey of my NDE right to the final end. So these opening chords, which are very mellow, is basically when I first realized that I was no longer in the franticness of the hospital. I was in a really calm, beautiful place, and it was very serene, and I felt safe. So that the opening parts is just taking you through that part of that. You suddenly you can, it's like, wow, this is great, And,
Oh, this is like the beginning of the
yeah, the beginning of the actual near-death experience itself. Yeah. And then there's like a crescendo comes up shortly, and that's basically where I realize that I'm staring at my guide, that I'm being greeted by my
Oh my goodness.
androgynous being.
So this is right at this time that the music coincides with this image.
The next one actually.
Well, actually, it would be this one.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's the very first bit. So this is a bit, I'm actually looking around now and looking at my guide, and then I realize that this is like really incredibly powerful. So it swells into like an energy that comes shortly. So the orchestra's swelling now.
Wow.
So that's me looking at my guide and going, "Who are you?"
This is amazing that it's translated like this, that your experience, you put it into, it's almost like it was so beautiful that words were not enough.
Yeah, well, there are some words in the third movement actually. Yeah, I decided to have some lyrics in that, so
You
that
did.
comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go to that one? And you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. This is basically the very final part where I'm staring at the actual tunnel of light itself, and I'm feeling this incredible energy that's coming from it, and I'm just feeling really lifted and really elated, and I'm finding that I've got all the confirmation that I need, that this is you know, there you go. That's staring at the light now. So we're just kind of calming down now from seeing that incredible light, and then it takes you to the vocal narration, if you like. So
Yes. And can you tell us? Can you explain some of the lyrics? What were you? What will it cover?
Yeah. Here it comes.
Okay.
So those opening lyrics, "So my soul sings," that's like basically saying that I'm actually
You're free.
I'm free. I'm in touch with my soul for the first time in my life. And so my soul sings, and then I'm talking about that I've just discovered the source of all creation in the light.
His voice is outstanding.
He's one of the best tenors in Cambridge, and again, the synchronicity that I got him to do it was amazing. He agreed straight away.
I mean, he almost sounds like he could do opera. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, he's an amazing musician.
So it said, "My soul sings, the angels all around me." What was that last part?
"Sea of stars shine upon." So I can tell you about the sea of stars as well afterwards. So
but you have them
You
in,
show me infinity, the pure and divine light.
right here. All this, you're talking about the stars, the
Yeah. And all these lyrics came on a beach one night as well, while there was a meteor shower going on. It's just incredible, you know. It's just nothing like I could ever have thought of writing either. You know, I'm not a lyricist at all, so.
I mean, this almost seems like something that you need to have like an Omnimax experience.
Yeah,
Seriously,
yeah. Oh well, right.
a
Thanks.
visual.
Yeah.
I mean, because these, I really want to see these images come alive,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, the art's amazing, but and then even like a further journey. And the thing about near-death experiencers, um, it's different than a memory because it's kind of still living in you, which
Mm.
means I think, and I want to see what you think about this, but that you're being exposed to different layers of it and understanding of it, so it continues to go on, the
Yeah.
wisdom within that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you that that the when I talk about the telepathy, that continues. That the education doesn't just stop once you've come back from the near-death experience. You know, it continued on and on and on, especially at the beginning. You know, I just felt like I got an umbilical cord attached to the other side, and that the energy was and information was still flowing through. But yeah, I mean, this is it. We just it's. I totally agree with you. That's it. It never seems to sort of
Yeah.
kind of fade. It never seems to get to a stage where I think, well, I don't really think about it anymore. Or, people say to me, oh, do you go through phases where you stop thinking about it? And I go, no, I don't. It's just like, it's been as important to me from day one as it is till now. And so it's because it's such a beautiful and important message to get across, I think. To people, and it's not like a duty. It's not, but it's like it's a calling. It's a calling that I wanted to follow through right from the off. When I first came back into my body and all the pain came rushing through, I just thought to myself, why have they sent me back? What is my mission? And
Yeah,
that's it.
exactly.
And I thought, am I going to be a healer? Am I going to be a helper? And I didn't make a decision that it was going to be through my music and my art. But that decision was made for me, and it started to sort of evolve at its own pace. And so that tends to be the way it's coming over at the moment. Yeah.
I completely identify with that. I'm actually obsessed with my purpose because I
Yeah.
agreed to come back. Otherwise, it's a lot better there. Just like there's not as much conflict like we have on planet Earth, and differences. It's all loving and beautiful, and so I'm determined to to get my purpose. And a lot of people that feel the same way. Now, you don't have to have an NDE, but a lot of NDErs is that's a common trait. But how that divine manifests through all of us, it can be really different. And it's interesting because it's still changing. And that's what I'm saying. It's still changing because I think I had mentioned to you, you're very intuitive. There's other spiritual gifts that are going to come out. Now, whether all of us, if we decide to use things that we spiritually grow to use to tell others, or just use it in a loving way in life, it's really up to each person.
Yeah, of course,
not everybody's going to go to Author Family and take medium classes. It is up to each person. But that doesn't mean that you still can't use it. But yeah, and I think it's that creation. We're all from there, that creation. And so, but it's evolving and living and breathing. So, what I heard, it was so cute when you were talking. I heard you guys, well, I didn't know I'd come back and, do the art and the music and all of that. And I think it's so much more, David. I really do. Cinema, photography, so much more. And so I heard that you're a creation conductor.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's lovely.
So let's don't limit ourselves, because there's, and also if you're creative, it does, expand and transfer. So I wouldn't limit that. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, what you're about to bring to the world. And the thing is, you do it from a place of passion, love, and excitement. So when it hits, this journey continues. Having you today has been a complete honor and blessing. And this is, you are the epitome of not only of an amazing example of the beauty of an after effect, but also you're so kind and humble, and it just touches me, and I wish more people were like you.
Well, thank you. That's lovely. Really, really is. You touched my heart, and I mean that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
Uh,
you're a living example. So, and you know what? I love it. You don't admit to be perfect, and neither do I. You're just a
nah,
person. I love that. You're just a real
exactly.
person.
Yeah, yeah, of
Well, look,
course.
thank you so much for this beautiful
My
info.
pleasure.
And I hope if everybody, has enjoyed this, subscribe and like, and also buy David's book, Shine On, and you'll see that below in all the links. So thank everybody for having an evening
Thank you.
of a near-death experience with music and art with David Ditchfield. Thank you so much, David. You're welcome here anytime.
Brilliant. I'd love to come back.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.